Cool. Well, as people populate, I'll get back to it. I'm also recording the audio, so I'll upload this to the podcast channel so everybody can hear it on audio later. Good to see some familiar faces. For those of you who don't know, that is Izzy. She is, like I've said in the past, if based on this book, if Jack Reacher had a dog, I'm almost certain it would be this dog. She's perfect. But yeah, so I'm going to just touch on some notes I've taken over the last couple of weeks since my last live. And then for anybody listening in or watching or anything, you can Q&A this or question comments, and I'll follow along and try to keep up. But basically, where to start? Because I'm doing this for audio too. I'm trying to think of how this will be without any video interaction. To catch everybody up to speed, for some reason, if you don't know who I am and you're on my page and you're just surfing and happen to see this, my name is Jeff Bosley. I am a theater geek turned theater major, or movie geek, movie nerd turned pre-med major turned theater major turned Army Green Beret turned firefighter turned actor. That's the short of it. And the background as to why this is Reacher Talk Part 3 is because Tom Cruise is no longer in the mix for the next Jack Reacher iteration of film. And the author, Lee Child, has explicitly stated that in the past and relatively recently on his new book tours. I've met with Mr. Child twice. I spoke on a panel with him. I was brought up to speak at a panel with him. I didn't know it was happening. And so that's the short of it. It's a real potential thing as far as he's been explicit talking about how he needs to cast the right physical person, and also he wants an unknown actor. And so far, those are two things that I have. In Hollywood, it's extremely hard to get good roles if you're not known. And it's ironic. To get big agents, to get big auditions, you have to be a big name. But to be a big name, you need to have a big agent and get big jobs. So this is truly a fluke. This is something that doesn't happen in Hollywood often. So for anybody that's followed or seen it, I've been relentless in my persuasion of this thing, because it's unprecedented, and so I'm relentlessly fighting for it. And one of my arguments is, first off, I'm a book fan. I'm still to this day, I need to go to my storage unit. It's government storage unit, but I do have the original book I found next to a latrine when I was going to the bathroom in Iraq. It was the first Jack Reacher book I read, and I was hooked. And the day I read it, I remember explicitly thinking, holy crap, this is me. Blue eyes, 6.5 feet tall, 250 pounds. And so ever since then, I've been a fan of the books. And as a movie nerd, I love honoring source material. And I think that's why I have so much vested interest in this role. I'm not just an actor that has this is actually one of my main points. I'll just start with it now, and I'll answer your questions as I go. I'm writing them down right now, Maria. Point number one I wanted to bring up, and it's a little pitchy, but it's something, it's hard because a lot of these things are coming from a place of being a fan, but also being an actor that wants the role. So I guess you just have to trust me that I don't have any, they're obviously self-serving forces, but they come from a place of fandom. So it's kind of weird, but hopefully y'all get it and trust me. But so I know there are some, I don't want to say haters. Almost everybody's been supportive or neutral about the whole Bosley For Reacher campaign. But people that haven't been the most supportive per se are the ones that just think I'm overdoing it, or like, actually, here's another note. I gotta write these down as I go or I'll forget. The people that haven't been, I guess, the most supportive are the ones that don't understand how hard it is to get work in Hollywood, and how hard it is to get big roles like this when they want it unknown. There's a lot going against me, and this anomaly of an occurrence is why I'm fighting so hard for it. Which brings me to, I guess, point number one is, as a fan and as the actor that wants the job, I believe this is an amazing first thing, because Mr. Child wants the fans to have kind of a say in it. So it's really cool that I really want fans to be part of this process proactively, like before the fact. Every other movie based on a book or some sort of source material, I use Batman, for example. Everybody's like, oh, okay, Ben Affleck's Batman, I guess we'll just roll with it, hate it or love it. Whereas in this case, it's part of the journey together before it's even happened. So that's where I think it's really cool. But one of the things I guess this is about a pitch, if you will. I say this to me as a fan and to you as fans, wouldn't you want an actor to play the role that actually wants the role in a pursuit sense, versus a random Hollywood actor that fits the bill, that makes the studio money, and they go to that guy and they go, hey, do you want to play Jack Reacher? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll take the paycheck. Let me read up on it and research this. Which is 9 times out of 10 how it works. It's very rare that there are roles that actors know about ahead of time so they can fight for it. Like Harrison Ford and Han Solo, he didn't know that role existed. They went to him and asked him loosely. So wouldn't you want the actor that wanted this job proactively, not reactively? So that's my pitch, or a pitch argument, is every actor, and that even though the actors that have been mentioned in other forums, they break the unknown rule, but wouldn't you want somebody that wants this job? I know I would. I wouldn't want a doctor operating on my brain that didn't want to be a doctor. That's kind of how I look at it. So that's just kind of like that little pitch is something that is an argument I want to say, but I know text-based communications can really dilute the intended message. So a lot of the forums I try to just kind of play nice, and I don't get too passionate because it can come across wrong. So I have to be really careful. So yeah, wouldn't you want somebody that wants the role, not somebody that just goes, oh sure, I'll look at it because you came to me. Yeah. So as anybody that knows or has been following this, I'm living, eating, and breathing this. Good, bad, or indifferent. And I'll answer this question as I go. Maria asks, are you allowed to talk about it? There's nothing official, so I'm not talking about anything. Everything I've said I can talk about, and I'm happy to elaborate on. But the things that everything's hearsay. It's not like Mr. Child and I and his assistant, his agent, and all of them. We have spoken and we have interacted via various means of communication, but we're not text buddies per se. Although we do interact, it's not like I have any inside intel, because I know as much as you guys do. Basically, is right now the only formalities that exist are he wants it to happen. Mr. Child does. He wants to have the final say, I believe. I have audio, there's I think in a BBC article or various articles or sites that could cite his statements of these things. Is he wants final say in it. He wants an unknown actor, but the only formal stuff that exists as of now is stuff I'm seeing on its IMDb. If you don't know what that is, it's basically the Bible of the movie industry. Take it for what it's worth. But then there's like an IMDb Pro for people that are in the industry. It's an account you get as a performer, an actor, or some sort of filmmaker. And on the IMDb Pro side, it's not like it's secret information. But normally that's where you would go as a industry worker and get your inside information. And there's no secret. It's the only thing attached to this Jack Reacher series on that is Mr. Child. I believe he's listed as the executive producer, and Paramount and Skydance. And that doesn't necessarily mean any of that's official. So there are currently no official channels to go through or even really talk about or research. So traditionally, if there's a role I want in a show that's existing, I would look on their company and I'd find out, okay, here's the casting offices, here's where auditions are, and then I'd call my manager and my agent, and they would contact that casting office, and then they would pitch me, and there'd be all these very formal, slightly annoying channels to go through. And as an unknown in Hollywood, or not necessarily a giant known, I should say, they'll be like, who? All right, you're not John Hamm, click. And so that's kind of why this is such an anomaly, is because nothing exists, and the decision maker wants it to be an unknown. And so that's why I'm fighting it now, because there are no formal channels. So I hope that kind of answers your question, Maria, is there's literally nothing to not talk about. Yeah. So I'm just going to go to my points, and as people interact, I'll deviate as needed. I'm just reading this. This is a really cool comment, Christine. Thank you. Yeah, Christine, I am hard on myself, but I think if I come across hard on myself, it's just because I don't accept mediocrity, and I really want this, and it is probably one of my faults. And if I ever come across hard on myself in a weak way, it's more like I'm aware of the construct of the Hollywood industry, and there are just things I just can't change, right, wrong, or indifferent. And like I always use the metaphor, when I wanted to be a Green Beret, as long as I was the best at what I did and passed all their tests, so to speak, and earned their belief in me or whatever, they would go, okay, you're worthy to become a Green Beret. Hollywood's not like that. There's no perfect ratio of talent and hard work that equals guaranteed results. So yeah, I'm really hard on myself, but I've never wanted anything as bad as this. And I what clears my conscience is there's articles where I was interviewed years, I can't remember the timeline, I can find it, but before the Tom Cruise movies even came out, I can be quoted as saying, boy, if there was a role I could ever want, it'd be Jack Reacher, because I'd already read the books as a fan. So I want this, A, because I love my job, B, I feel this seems a little maybe melodramatic, but this would change my life in the kid in me ways, career ways, supporting my friends and family ways. I mean, it would literally be the start of my career. This would be my Jason Momoa in I just blanked. The TV show he's in that I'm a huge fan of, and I'm blanking on what it's called. I just wanted to say Lord of the Rings. What is it called? Anybody chime in here? Game of Thrones. God. So this would be my Jason Momoa time in Game of Thrones. However, Jason Momoa wasn't in that many seasons. This show I would be the guy. So this would change my career. And it would set me up in that circumstance where big jobs would go, oh, he's a big name, now we can look at him, which is just an unfortunate, the game you play. I say this all the time, and people that just now know me might not know this about me. I get the Hollywood game, and I'll play it. Some of the rules are absurd, and I'll play along with them, but I'm looking at the long game and the big picture, and I can't change the rules, but I'll be damned if I don't win playing their game. So, but yeah, I am hard on myself. It is what it is. Yeah, and I don't want to miss the opportunity, trust me. Surely I'll answer that in a sec. Yeah, I'll just answer it right now. Will you do any Reacher dialogue scenes for us to watch, listen? Stay tuned. Yes, that's the short answer. I know, obviously I don't think any actor or performer that says they're done and they got it figured out, they're wrong. It's a constantly evolving process. I do know, not in an arrogant way, but in anything I've ever done, I surround myself with people because I know I'll never think I'm good enough at anything, but I do know the people that I surround myself with, if they say it, they're not going to say it just to be nice, and if they say it, it's legitimate. So very trusted acting world people have complimented me and helped nurture me and educated me and taught me and everything in my acting career. And those people who I intimately rely on for their judgment and their truth have said I'm good at what I do. So I'm very reassured in that part. But at the end of the day, you still need to be able to act, and that'll bring me to a point a little bit later. But yeah, stay tuned. There will be some stuff. So I'll go to point number 2. This is just kind of maybe like some side education, because I have this weird insight in that I'm a fan, but I also now get how the film and TV industry works, which is sometimes it depends on the person. Having that understanding makes me relax on when I watch certain movies. My perfect example is there's some movies where major stars, for example, hold a gun from their hip and shoot it that way. That's absurd. That's to me like having a doctor in a doctor movie hold a scalpel by the blade. It just makes no sense. However, there are some compromises you need to do for like camera angles where traditionally if you're holding a rifle, you would hold it, you'd line up your sights right in front of your eyes. But a camera that's shooting that shot can't see the actor's face, so they can't see the performance. So actors actually have to consciously bring the rifle down and hold it wrong so they can get the shot. So I'm aware of that, and that allows me to, but I can turn that off when I'm watching a movie and just enjoy it. But some from the non-film people outside looking in, there's a lot of stuff they don't understand. And one comment, and none of these are meaning derogatory towards the commenter in case you happen to join in or see this ever. On one of, somewhere where I was pitching Bosley For Reacher, a gentleman, I believe it was a male, said something like, Reacher's strong and silent. He wouldn't be pitching himself like this. And that is where I adamantly say, this is acting, right? Granted, I think there are some roles where the actor and the character they're not that different, and there are other ones that are crazy different. One woman chimed in and said she loved this. I don't know what actor she was referencing, so I don't even know. But she had referenced how she loved this one actor's portrayal of James Bond. But when she saw him interviewed on a late night show as himself, she didn't like him as a person. Annoyed her. So that guy is not so much that character. Whereas I think this role for me is not tons of a deviation. However, yeah, Jack Reacher wouldn't be pitching to play pretend in a movie, because he's already a fictional character. So it doesn't make any sense. So when I hear stuff like, Reacher wouldn't be advertising himself, or Reacher wouldn't be doing a live video, well, duh. He's a fictional character. That's where acting comes in. So I don't mean to be argumentative, but yeah, trust me, I can act like Reacher. I'm very nice and polite online, and it's all genuine, but let's not all forget, not to be arrogant. Hey, Lauren. But let's not forget I was a Green Beret. I didn't run around the world giving out hugs. Actually, in some cases, I actually did. But yeah, so for all those moments where people are like, Reacher would be quiet and stoic and tough and whatever, manly, I can conjure that up, trust me. So that stands to that point is, remember, and this is kind of where I think, like it's weird, like growing up seeing Schwarzenegger in movies or Stallone in movies, and then when I've met them, I'm like, oh, they're just normal people portraying characters that we've come to know and love. When I met Stallone, I met him on a handful of times, and I worked out next to him. Great example, because the gym, this is a great example actually. The gym is a place where you can kind of be yourself, and the places I've met, these aren't name droppy, but it will sound that way, I apologize, but the places I've met, Chris Pratt, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, those are the three that come to my mind. They are not their characters. They, to an extent, they may be, because maybe that's a character they've played forever. But the second I met them, they weren't their character. Chris Pratt, for example, great example. I think he's an astonishing actor. He's a little goofy and fun and jovial, and that's the character he plays in Guardians of the Galaxy. So that window, if you will, it doesn't mean he's a bad actor. It just means it's more like him than if he was to all of a sudden play a rapist in a movie. That's probably not who Chris Pratt is. So that spectrum is a little bit wider for his performance. So that actor and character are two different things. And a good actor, which I believe at least I'm aware of, will do everything it takes to embrace and portray the character y'all expect him to be. The minute I get this role, I won't be groveling, as this gentleman said, trying to fight for the role. I will be Jeff, as I always am, and I'll portray Reacher not groveling. So that's just a random side point. I took a lot of these notes. And I'll just go to the next point. This is kind of a sub point. I'm not trying to like ruin movies for anybody. That's not my intention here, but I'm trying to educate people as to maybe what I do and as to why I'm doing it, so my supporters don't think I'm negating or not honoring the source material, Mr. Child, or the fictional character of Jack Reacher, or you all as the fans. A lot of things that go on in film and TV and whatnot, there's a lot that doesn't get known. For example, a brilliant point came up. A supporter, I see the person's name a lot, and it means the world to me. A handful of people have been integral to dusting off, because I read these books. I'm rereading them. There's one on, where is it? Right there. There's one on my couch right there. I'm rereading Killing Floor. I read these books originally years ago. I've since had to memorize tons of medical knowledge. I've read other books. I was a firefighter, so a lot of that stuff is cobwebs. So it's a lot of y'all, thank you by the way, have been integral to being kind of my subject matter expert, my like coaches. And some people pointed out, like, this is Reacher's favorite color. This is something he would do different. And a lot of these decisions, they're not defiant, like saying, F you, I'm going to do it my way. They're actually conscious decisions. Like, for example, a shoot we were doing, we decided to have me wear a black jacket, A, because it's what I have that fits, and B, because if I wore a green jacket, the background was green and the image would look bad. So there's actually a lot. It's almost like a painter. When you paint, you are very meticulous with your colors and how they match. So believe it or not, this isn't to ruin movies, but there's a lot that goes into just a wardrobe. A wardrobe designer goes, okay, where are we shooting? Okay, I got to make sure those colors don't clash, or if they want them to clash, they'll clash them on purpose. So actually, there's a lot of conscious decisions made into something that is seemingly quick and easy. So just these shoots I've been doing, there was actually a lot of conscious effort to going, okay, it's a cloudy day, but there's a lot of green, so the green foliage is going to pop and it's going to be really bright. So if he wears a green coat, it's going to look really bad. So a black coat was worn. So that's just a little bit of that. So accuracies versus like book accuracy versus film compromise is what I'm going to kind of reference it, is a conscious decision. But on the flip side of that, everybody that's been supporting me and helpful, I do welcome pointing out errors, and I'm happy to make a dialogue about it, because if I'm screwing up, I think a crappy actor would be defiant. I'm receptive to not knowing I don't know everything. So I love the support and I love the help and I love the dialogue. Just don't assume it's because I'm an idiot. But this person I know that gave me this tip, she wasn't treating me that way. It was very welcoming and very polite conversation. Good question before I continue. Lauren asks, doesn't that make it more perfect in the eyes of casting that you don't need to be taught those elements? In theory. Every answer to do with Hollywood is in theory. Things, and I'm not knocking the industry people that make a decision about my career, but things that make sense in the normal world, there's so many millions of things that don't make sense that I don't understand. You think the things that would go, that makes sense, it'd be a shoo-in, it'd be a guarantee. No such thing. Yes, on paper, hey, cool, we don't have to teach this guy how to hold a gun. We know this guy can do the 1,000-yard stare because he's experienced it. This guy knows how to, wear a holster or use a gun, or does know how to fight. Hell, as a tall guy, that's something you can't teach. Like, to just exist in this world as a giant guy, it's just stuff you don't understand. And zero disrespect to Mr. Cruz, but we all know, if you're a Jack Reacher fan, there's a lot of points in the books where it mentions how he doesn't fit in this booth or in this seat or this chair or this car. Tom Cruise can't understand that. Anybody under 6'5" won't understand the misery it is to sit in a car as a giant person. So there are a lot of things that just would make me perfect in the eyes of casting. Yet, at the end of the day, and this is kind of the thing that does frustrate me, at the end of the day, it's the almighty dollar. So whoever gets to make the decision, whomever or whatever entity, that's why, hey, this guy Jeff Bosley that some people like, the petition has like 1,000 people that like support him and love him. he won't guarantee money in this theater, so let's get guy X that, you know, whatever, and they have a warm and fuzzy about money, and it's really frustrating, trust me. So a lot of decisions that you don't get, and I don't get as a fan looking from the outside looking in, watching, just being a fan of movies, that 9 times out of 10 that's the answers. There's just some random reason that it's hard to not believe it's a coincidence. You know, some people get stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame after one movie, and it's coincidentally right when the movie's coming out. Whereas there's been living legends in Hollywood. Adam West, for example, who played Batman, the original Batman, kind of the original, but the original overall, he didn't get a star. Like, it took an act of God to petition to get him a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Yet there are some reputable actors that coincidentally got one the day the movie was released. It's hard not to coincide a lot of stuff like that. So yes, those are sales points that make me perfect in the eyes of casting, but I can't rely on those. Thus the campaign, because they're, you know, if I could guarantee them a return, I feel all cockeyed today. If I could guarantee the studio income and money, I'd probably relax a little bit. But now it's just like, I have this is a 1 in a million lifetime chance, and I gotta fight for it because it's a rare thing. And studios, despite, this is my instinct, is despite Mr. Childs saying he has final say and he wants an unknown, it's not that I don't believe him or know that that's his truth, but at the end of the day, the studio or the network or the streaming service that's going to put all the billions of dollars into the TV show, they're going to go, who? Jeff who? And then if Mr. Child can, you know, let's say he wants me, and I hope he does, but he can go, this guy that all my fans and everybody loves and supports, hopefully he'll have all these ingredients, and they'll go, okay, we're nervous, but now we're less nervous. Reading this last thing. Thank you, Carsey. That outcome is my goal. So it's good to hear positive reinforcement on that. So I'll continue on until people chime in. Kind of just going down the list of a little Hollywood truisms. So the first thing was, you know, Reacher wouldn't do this, or why I might deviate from like the green jacket versus black jacket scenario. And then also the thing I'm extremely passionate about as a fan and an actor, but 99% as a fan. I kind of got a little frustrated at this on one of the forums. Believe it or not, I need coffee. Sorry about that. No way I can get through my day. Is as a fan, I want actors to be in movies. I am tired of, like, here's a perfect example. So people don't think I have well, actually, no, I would kill to be Batman, like to play old man Batman, or like if they did a Batman Beyond and I was like old man Bruce Wayne, I would kill for that. But I'll use Batman as a better example because I don't have much of a leg in that game. That franchise, they'll only take a name. The chance of them taking an unknown is next to zero. But as a fan of Batman, I don't want them to go, you know, we should pick this random quarterback that played for the Cowboys. He looks like Batman. That's ridiculous. That's so stupid. And the same goes for me as a fan of Jack Reacher. The passionate kind of, and it's a slap in the face as an actor. So it's kind of like, okay, I always use my dad as a metaphor because he's a physician. So if somebody looks more like a doctor but never went to medical school, would you rather does that mean you'd pick him over an actual MD? It makes no sense. Obviously there's anomalies. Harrison Ford, I'll go back to that example. He was dabbling in acting, I believe. He maybe had some acting courses here and there, but he was doing carpenter work somewhere around Star Wars set. I forget the story. Next thing you know, he's Han Solo, and I don't know if he, you know, throughout the years, just, I mean, I won't deny a lot of acting and roles and film and all that. A lot of it is on the job training, so to speak, because, you know, let's use the Harrison Ford thing. Once he got rolling, I don't know if he went to acting classes. I don't know if he went to theater programs. I don't know if he went to the Strasberg Conservatory for 4 years. I don't know. But I would like to think he did take some classes and did do stuff to perfect his craft. I know Will Smith. He still goes to a school. I've audited, and I'm actually going to go to soon. Sturgis, Spicer Sturgis. It's a school here in LA, and I know Will Smith works with Spicer. His name's Aaron Spicer. So he still knows he needs to be trained and educate and work on his characters and his craft. You're never done learning. I don't care if you're an EMT, a firefighter, a Green Beret, or an actor. You aren't done learning. And if you think you got it on accident and you don't do anything to sustain it or maintain it or get better at it, it's stupid. And so that's where, as a fan, and particularly as an actor, it's a slap in the face for people to just saturate the idea pool with, like bodybuilders or people that fell into acting or people that have no acting training. And it is a competitive world, and I'm a type A guy that wants competition. It's always comparing resumes. It's always fighting for things he wants, whether it's as a Green Beret, a theater major, or a firefighter. This world we live in is a world of competition and who's better at this or who has more experience. So yeah, I get a little passionate as the actor that wants the role when people throw out some quarterback or some bodybuilder or whatever, because it's like, I'll lose my cool internally, but if some random quarterback got it because they looked right and the studio knew it would make them money, as an actor, I'd be really, really disappointed. Then as a fan, I will be sick. I will be absolutely sick. So I don't know why people think, we've seen it, and I'm not going to remotely name names, but 9 times out of 10 people that their second career was acting, and I'm not saying, because I don't want to be a hypocrite, like, oh, so Jeff, you're second. I'm not saying you have to be born and then start acting when you're 1 year old. But when they were typically an athlete or something like that, and then they're like, now I'm going to dabble in acting. There are very few people that made that switch. I'll use good examples. I won't name names that I don't agree with. And all these are as fans. As a fan, I say this. Robin Williams, comic to extremely great dramatic actor in a lot of his roles. Not a guarantee. A lot of comedians, when they flip over, they're still going to be the comedian they were as a comedian in TV and film. Entertainers, sports people, it's a rarity that they make that flip. And if they do and have a successful career, they still might not exactly have the deep diversity as far as roles and performances. Your Johnny Depps, your Jake Gyllenhaals, your Hugh Jackmans, they didn't really switch from another giant career. And that's why I, as a fan, firmly believe they are really good at what they do. So that's a little quit saying non-actor people for this role. I say that as a fan. It's absurd and makes no sense. And on that note, my other note here is the body stuff. A lot of people, ironically, in Hollywood, body image is all bad. And ironically, this is one of the roles where it's like the Mountain in Game of Thrones. That guy can't be small. There's a reason he's called the Mountain. So there are roles and there are characters that there has to be a certain body. So I'm not out going into some dark alley shooting up steroids. That's stupid. But I'm doing everything possible in keeping good health to ensure any box I can check to become Jack Reacher and show Mr. Child that I love it, live it, breathe it, and believe in it, and to show the studio the same thing. Anything I can control, I will. Because I know there's so many anomalies and absurdities in the filmmaking world that I don't have any control over. It's run by humans. So, there's a funny joke I have with a casting director friend of mine that's been really great about giving me a lot of insight and truths to the business. Is this is a true story. I don't know if she was keeping the people in the story anonymous to be polite to me, because I'm worried it was actually me. But the story goes is the casting director, not the one that gave me the insight, but the casting director we're speaking of, said basically the actor, and in this case I believe she was actually saying me, reminded me of her ex-husband, and she didn't want to cast me because of that. And I guess you can't fault that. It's a human industry. So those things I don't have any control over, but I'll be damned to the things I do have control over. physical stature, studying, training as in drama, training as far as acting, training as far as physical, guns, fighting, whatever. I'm living, eating, breathing. It's good I'm single right now, because I would probably be breaking up in a relationship because this is all I care about. I'm just keeping her, my dog, who's asleep, and me alive. So going to the body thing, some people are like, oh, Jeff, do you have like a body image thing? Are you worried you're too small? And actually the reason I'm fighting that is because until, like, when I read on paper as a 6.5 foot tall guy, when I read 250 pounds, I was like, oh, that's a big guy. That's big, but not big. On a 6.5 foot tall frame, 250 is actually kind of not skinny, but it's not as big as the physical description and the renderings that are floating around the internet show him to be. I've been 290 pounds and it was miserable, but that was more what the descriptions, that matched more the descriptions in the book and what the internet and various artist drawings and renderings of Reacher have translate to. I'm not going to get 290 pounds again. That's 40 pounds out of my window right now. If I have to, I will. But somebody was DM'd me the other day, and I would rather, it's not easier to get smaller, but it's easier to get smaller than it is to get bigger. So I want to guarantee when I meet these people, they go, okay, he's huge. Okay, oh, he's too huge, let's make him smaller. Or, okay, he's huge but too ripped, let's add some fat. I'm trying to make it, whatever I am, it's easy to deviate from versus harder to deviate from. So I'd rather go in there bigger and ripped and have them go, okay, you're too big and too ripped. I'm like, all right, no problem. I'll get small and start eating pizza. So that's why I'm focusing so much on the body, is because it's one of the things I have control over. And again, ironically, that, a lot of people are going, and here's maybe that Hollywood, like, smack you in the face with some facts here. A lot of people I've seen this multiple times. I'm not mocking it. People be like, you Jack Reacher can't have a beard. Well, duh, I know. I'll shave. So, and there, and so, like, stuff like that. The blonde hair thing, that one's on the fence, because some people, when they have blonde hair, they look bad. Like, people that have blonde hair naturally look better, whereas that might be a compromise, and that's one of the tertiary physical aspects of Jack Reacher. His blonde hair isn't like a huge character trait. His physique is, and obviously his ability to act. So the blonde, again, I'm not, unless they say it's my choice, I probably wouldn't dye my hair, because I don't look right with blonde hair. Maybe really dark, sandy blonde hair, but I don't look right. But at the end of the day, I'll Christian Bale this shit. I'll do whatever I have to match this physique of this character. So, and then as far as the tattoos, that's another argument, and slightly justified. But Jack Reacher's always wearing Henleys or some sort of long sleeve shirt, or that'd be a compromise they can make with the wardrobe of like, well, we don't, And I only have a couple on my forearms, so Jack Reacher doesn't really walk around in tank tops. So most of mine can be hidden in a t-shirt and with a tattoo cover up. But then the other argument could be, if they hired me and respected my military consulting aspect, I would tell them tons of people in the military have tattoos. Officers, warrant officers, and enlisted in almost every branch. Tattoos are like just normal. So I would also argue that it's not necessarily not right. A lot of the stuff are wives' tales about why you can't have tattoos. I know some extremely secret squirrels that work for 3-letter agencies and otherwise that have tons of tattoos. Obviously, you get captured by the bad guy and you have identifying marks. That sucks, but it hasn't stopped any of us from having tattoos. I got all of mine when I was in Special Forces, the place you supposedly can't have tattoos. So that'd be an argument, but at the end of the day, that shouldn't be a reason to not cast a person. Obviously, step 1 is the physical. Step 2, or 1B, is that the dude can act. All the other stuff can be fixed. If my eyes weren't blue, contacts. If my hair needs to be lighter, dye. If my tattoos need to be removed, hide them or digitally remove them. Anything's possible. So I just want people to like lighten up a little bit on that. And lastly, or at least my last note, the timeline. People ask, when will you know? If you've been in the military, The same thing applies as a military spouse. Don't ever ask when or why. Currently, there's no known. What I know, you know. So if anybody posts an article or some sort of new news about, something Mr. Child said, that's where I'm getting my intel. I try to still be professional, but I'd be a fool not to slightly take advantage of the connections I made with Mr. Child and his team. So every once in a while I will kind of poke the bear and send a text or whatever to his team, trying to get some info, because, again, in this business, whatever it takes, I'll do everything possible, but maintaining professionalism. So, I'm not going to be that annoying fanboy texting his assistant or his manager daily. But if I can get the leg up on it, when it becomes a formal thing, because right now it's just all I can do is accept him as a friend or a passionate actor. Currently, there's no offices or casting director or casting decision maker. There's nobody it's called the showrunner, which is what it sounds like, the person that runs the show. So there's really nobody to talk to or pitch. So when? I have no idea. My fantasy is that whatever I'm doing, because he does know me, obviously I spoke at that panel with him for a moment. My fantasy is he goes, well, crap, we got this ready. We got our Jack Reacher. Let's do this. We've saved 90% of the legwork of the when will we do it by finding our Jack Reacher. Now the rest is easy. Cast the universe, build the universe. The people I'm working with now, this is kind of fantastical, but I'm doing a lot of work for the studio. As far as I have very legitimate people working from Marvel and Sony and the Fast and Furious franchise with me. Very good writers, very good stunt and action choreographers and filmmakers, directors of photography, cinematographers. I have those people actually working on me with what I'm doing, which is I've been keeping nebulous on purpose. Whoever it is, let's just say Netflix. Netflix would be brilliant if they're like, oh, well, we got Jeff, he's got a crew. Let's just fire this thing up. We can get this thing going. So that's my when timeline. Barry. Yes, Barry. Holy crap. Anita, hi. You're hi from me via your husband. Yeah, here's a perfect example. Barry says James Bond. How many books are there from James Bond? He had black hair, and I think, and he says a great thing. Daniel Craig is a fantastic Bond, and hair should not be a limitation. Height is. Agreed, and I truly mean that objectively. As a fan, I said this in other podcasts or other videos. The Vampire Chronicles, the movie that interviewed the vampire with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise. Ironically, Tom Cruise. If you didn't know that book series, Interview the Vampire matched the physicality. Lestat, the one played by Tom Cruise, they gave him a blonde wig, and that was a character feature, and I think it kind of worked. But that's that is based on an extremely explicitly detailed book series, which for some reason I'm a fanatic about. I love that book series. When they did the follow-up, they kind of did an amalgamation of two books, but the sequel, so to speak, and it had, again, I'm forgetting the actor's name, but it was based off the book The Vampire Lestat. I think that was the name of the movie too, but it had Aaliyah. It was the last movie she did before she died. They gave that actor a blonde wig. He looked ridiculous. You couldn't get past it. So they're like, get rid of that. That made no sense. So yeah, if it's going to ruin, if it matches the character, but nobody can get past it, we'll drop it, because some people just shouldn't have colored hair. Like some people photoshopped that one image of me floating around with, I found this out, they actually used a picture of Lee Child and captured his hair color and applied it to mine, because as we all know, I'm sure he's actually been quoted saying this somewhere, Reacher is Child. Tall, obviously much larger, blue eyes, blonde hair, tall. That's Child. Drinks coffee. He is Lee Child. So the person that made that photo said, well, I'm just going to take Lee Child's hair and apply it to Jeff Bosley. She did eyebrows, everything. And the quality of the Photoshop was astonishing. But Jeff Bosley with blonde hair just didn't work. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'll make it work. If they say that's right and the studio needs it, we'll make it happen. Another great example to give a little insight into movies. If anybody watched, what was it called? Burn Notice. It was I think it had like 7 or 8 seasons on the USA. I love that show. The first season, the main female in it, she had an Irish accent, and fans of the show I think it was okay, but it wasn't real. And I think people watching it just couldn't get past it. And they found a way, I think midway through the first season or into the second season, to get rid of it. She just basically said she was an immigrant, and it's time, because she was a spy, it was time she started speaking like an American. Boom, problem fixed, because the Irish accent was hard to hear. So they'll find a way to fix it. Blonde hair, that'll be a little harder if we start blonde and somehow Reacher needs also to be brown haired. Or they'll just do it and ignore it and switch it to brown and just act like it never happened, because this isn't a sitcom. I mean, Lauren, I'll always take a higher salary. Trust me. Daddy's got bills. And Marie's a huge Jack Reacher fan, and she's saying no blonde hair. And I have to say I agree. So, yeah, that's a compromise that doesn't make the character the character. A lot of people, and I say this seriously, I'm not saying it on the off chance, which this actually is in the works, where I'll meet Mr. Cruz regarding this whole thing. His gravitas, or his performance, was pretty Reacher-esque, and I'll agree with this as a fan. Just the physique was just not there. I argue as a fan, Tom Cruise is now he's Tom Cruise himself. He's such a big character as a human, as an actor, as a being. It's hard for us as fans to lose him in a role. There's a point where people tip in their career where you'll never see them as anybody but them. There's people, and I'll keep bringing up his name, Jake Gyllenhaal. He's big, but you'll lose him in a role. You kind of go, oh, he's that character. Christian Bale's still there too, but there are other giant people that, despite their acting abilities, they're so giant in the real world that we can't see him otherwise. So I think Tom Cruise has that going against him as a fan. That's like cinema fan deep argument there. But I think his performance was good, but they didn't even think twice about coloring his hair. No point. Obviously, they didn't care about matching the book, because there's a quote where Child says something about, he thought he could pull off 80% of the performance, and the 20% that didn't match physically wouldn't matter. Obviously, us as fans, it mattered. And that's the weird thing, is just the way Child wrote the books. A lot of books will just kind of mention the physical features of the character and move on. Aragorn and the Lord of the Rings books, they just mention it and move on. But we all know in the Jack Reacher books, it's an extremely explicit feature every 30 pages. So he kind of jokingly wrote himself into a corner. He can't not use a big guy for the character now. But they tried, and poop happens. Yeah, and Melanie has a good point. Like I always forgot. I honestly, up until this campaign, if you will. Hey, Janet. Up until this campaign, and where I think the first time I saw it was a BBC article. It's the thing on Lee Child's page. He reposted a BBC article saying who should play the next Jack Reacher, and that's where I lost my mind and went to town. But I'd actually forgot until somebody chimed in. They're like, "Nope, Jeff won't work. He doesn't have blonde hair." I was like, "What?" And I kind of forgot Reacher had blonde hair. I think for whatever reason, I don't know the statistics on the planet, but most people have brown hair. So like, blonde is an anomaly, and so I think a lot of us just go to what we envision. And I'm very honored that people now are picturing me as Reacher. And I know I'm scared to do these live things, because I know it's hard once you get to, like, here's a perfect example. My mother has come to see me when I was doing theater. She's seen me in movies, and she can't not see Jeff, no matter how great my performance is. Thank God she hasn't seen the performances where I've played. I always go to this extreme, but a performance where I sickeningly played a rapist. It was a very good performance, and people that didn't know me just were like grossed out. They were like, "Oh, that was amazing." But I think even then, my mom would only see Jeffrey. She'd go, "Oh, that's my Jeffrey." So the more you get to know me, the more you see me and not the character. So it's like it's a catch-22 risk as you all get to know me, to hopefully, like, if all of a sudden I had to act Jack Reacher right now, I could do it and you'd see it, but the more you get to know me, I'm doing it to let you, it's a catch-22. You know, if I just acted all Jack Reacher all the time, people would be like, oh, he's totally Jack Reacher. But like I said, there's a huge, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience where they want an unknown. So I have to get y'all's support and belief in me and risk that, oh, I only see jovial, nice Jeff. I guess y'all just have to trust that jovial, nice Jeff that I am right now, it's sincere. But when in a Jack Reacher, there's a famous phrase, and I don't know who said it, but when it comes to acting, they tell actors, and it's one of my things I actually have written on a Post-it note at every audition I go to. It says, living realistically in imagined circumstances. That's all acting is. So if Jeff was in a circumstance at a bar, like I think it's in One Shot, but they used it in the Tom Cruise adaptation, where he's at the bar in the booth, and the 4 or 5 guys try to, they pick a fight with him. He stands up and towers over him. So living realistically in that imagined circumstance, I would take him out to the street and beat the living shit out of him. That's jovial, nice Jeff. But you can see that that light switch would exist, and I promise you that. So I guess y'all are just going to have to trust me that despite all this sincere, jovial, polite interaction, I can bring my Reacher. This I promise. And it's fortunate because I do have a background to fall on. That's where it's good, is it's still acting, but I definitely have been in some experiences that I can draw from. So it's not like every actor to play a role has to have experienced that. And, like I'll go to the other extreme as always. You don't have to have raped somebody to play a rapist. That's stupid. But there are roles and characters where if you have a lot of personal experience to draw from that applies to that character, all the better. Yeah, Barry makes a good point here. Child mentions Reacher's height and weight a lot, but blonde hair and blue eyes not as much. And yeah, absolutely true. Like I said, I'm rereading Killing Floor, and I think they mentioned the blue eyes, especially when he's like working on the ladies, because we all know Reacher's, he's no James Bond, but he definitely is with the women, and the blue eyes probably help him. Have a good day at work, Lauren. Thanks for all your input today. So that's all the notes I have about everything that's been going on. Yes. But yeah, so that's all my notes. An hour is pretty much the point of, I just forgot the phrase. I had a team sergeant that said it all the time. Not the point of no return. I can't remember the phrase. I'm really tired. But yeah, after an hour, it's kind of, we all start to drain off and get tired. I appreciate everybody chiming in and giving your input. I'll keep this on the page. I'll make an audio podcast out of this. Feel free to share, chime in, and as everybody knows, I hope, and I know I've converted a lot of people that were, I actually have lost track of how many times somebody said, oh, I saw you, and I just thought it was some actor being an a-hole, like pitching himself, and then I've sold them, and they realized it was not that. I mean, obviously it's that, but I'm not an a-hole trying to just be a turd. I love the fact a lot of people have been converted, because that means I had to earn it, and that means more to me than, not more to me, but it has a lot of value if I've made people flip-flop. So if any of you are flip-floppers, thank you for your team, your team Bosley. And I guess I'd be amiss if I didn't say, yeah, share this, share the Bosley For Reacher hashtag. I will post the petition, and again, the petition doesn't necessarily mean anything logistically, but it shows something. Yeah, no, I didn't get the role. The summary is I've met with him. I've met twice with him. I did a panel. I spoke with him about being, they quoted, I'll butcher the quote, but it's something like, as the potential next Jack Reacher. That was a quote from the panel. So I'm on the radar. There's just no official channels yet. No casting offices, no casting directors, no formal auditions. So right now all I'm doing is pretty much trying to make the answer easy for them by everything I'm doing. Yeah. Thanks, Barry. So yeah, just share, tell your friends. I mean, invite them to the Bosley For Reacher Facebook group. The only reason I did that is not to be all, narcissistic. It's just because I didn't want to hijack other forums. That would be rude and inappropriate. But I wanted to give a place where people, it's very supportive. It is a really good, I wake up in the morning and look at posts and they make me feel good. But it's also a place to establish dialogue. I really welcome critics. Winning over the easy people, so to speak, it's important, but it's the ones that I need to earn it. The sun's changing. It's those ones that I really need to, gosh dang it. Those are the, all right. I really need to get them to believe in me. So, yeah. Thanks, Hawk. Thanks, Barry. I think I already said that. But yeah, so point of diminishing returns. That's where we're at now, at the 57-minute mark. Thank you, everyone. Like I said, I'm living, eating, and breathing this role and fighting for it. So you are always welcome to interact, comment, criticize, share, invite people to the group. I have 3 other moderators running the group. In fact, I'll post it right here before I forget. Stand by. Oh man, they're looking to cast a new Wolverine too. Y'all see that? Son of a. But here's the group. Right here. You're welcome to join. Thank you, Melanie. Thanks for listening in. But yeah, everybody, Tim, you just joined and we're leaving. Good to see you though. But yeah, that's it. I'm rambling at this point. Everyone have a great day. I'm probably do these again on a Saturday. I just know some people weekdays are easier. But yeah, I'll obviously post and share and I'll get all the info out to y'all later. So thank you so much, everyone. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.